Good afternoon and happy Thursday to you. I pray that your Wednesday you found spaces and places of joy, of happiness, a time to laugh, a time to just take a deep breath and appreciate all the beauty that surrounds you when we are intentional about paying attention. Maybe you can say, well, I'm tired of looking at things in my house, so I don't see any beauty. Well, pull up some old pictures. You can virtually travel to any place across this planet. You can do a virtual visit. So be very intentional about doing things to lift your mood. We have basically been talking about change, and we've gone through all the steps. And so I do have an add-on that I want to get to help you during this time of actively doing the things, practicing the things that you say that you want to change. In 12-step programs, there's an acronym. An acronym is where the letters in a word make up a word, but each letter stands for something. And the acronym I want to talk about over the next couple of days is HALT. HALT. H.A.L.T. And I use HALT to say that one of the challenges to our emotional well-being, one of the things that gets us off track is if we become too hungry, too angry, too lonely, or too tired. And so today I want to focus on the acronym H for too hungry. And I think I'm going to add in also becoming too thirsty. And that's not a part of the acronym, but I think it will fit. Now, when we talk about becoming too hungry, we can talk about becoming hungry in a physical sense, and we can talk about becoming too hungry in an emotional sense, or being too thirsty. I don't know if it's still a popular term, but a little while ago, the young people would say they're too thirsty. You know, they want this thing too bad. They're too needy is basically what they were talking about. But what happens is when we become too hungry, and let's just talk about in a physical sense. If you allow yourself to become too hungry, you're bound to make not great decisions. And some of you may know what I'm talking about. If you've ever gone to the grocery store and you're hungry, and you only really went into the store to buy two things, you come out with a whole basket full of food because you were picking everything that you saw. And so your hunger kind of impacted your decision of what to buy. And then you get home and found that you bought all these things that you really didn't need or want simply because you were too hungry. For some of us, on an emotional sense, we become too hungry for a relationship. We become too hungry for acknowledgement. And so we begin to do things that are really outside of who we were called to be. We begin to allow certain behaviors to happen in our relationship because we're so hungry to be in relationship. We're so hungry for connection, and it's not even true connection, but we'll take it no matter what it looks like. We really do get very, very thirsty. And when you're too hungry or too thirsty in a relationship, you begin to miss things that might be important, things about your partner, things about yourself, things about how the two of you all see the world may or may not be on the same page. You may miss because you're so hungry for a relationship. You're so hungry to make all the money in the world. You may miss the impact it's having on you. I know someone who is preparing for a particular goal, and so they're trying to work as much as they can. And so as a result, they're working sometimes 6, sometimes 7 days a week, sometimes double shifts. And my concern, they seem to be doing fine right now, but my concern is this hunger to reach this goal. What is the impact on your health? What is the impact on your current relationships because you're not available to be present? Being too thirsty, an old client of mine who was a Vietnam vet, he talked about, he was a Marine, And he talked about having been out in the jungle for months at a time, and what that challenge was. And one of the big challenges, which may not sound big, but that they had not had anything cold to drink in the hot jungle. And then they finally were able to go to a base camp, and they went in and they immediately were able to drink some cold soda. And so they were so thirsty and so hungry for this cold soda that they drank it really quickly. And he said the next thing he knew, he was coming up off the floor. He had passed out because his body had been so shocked by the coldness of the liquid that it shocked his system, because his system had not been used to it. He probably also had been a bit dehydrated from being out in the jungle. And hopefully in our real lives, in our current lives, we don't have that. But metaphorically, sometimes when we're so hungry and so thirsty for something, that the changes that we said we were going to make, that we're so anxious to get them done right away so quickly that it stops us in our path. It becomes overbearing. We'll use the example. Some people said that the change is they want to lose weight. And so instead of doing something that they can maintain over a lifetime, they do these really stringent diets where they can only eat like less than 1,000 calories a day, and they can only eat certain foods and just really ridiculously small portion sizes, or they're fasting for 3, 4, 5 days at a time. And it's not something that is sustainable. And so even if they lose the weight, when they have to go through a maintenance phase, they don't know what to do. They go back to those unhealthy habits because they had not used the time of change. They had not done it in a progressive way, that they were learning a new behavior. And that's the whole point when we're too hungry or we're too thirsty, when we're doing something out of trying to quickly fill a need. We're not learning how to sustain that response over time. We're not learning how to do that over time. When we meet someone and we immediately pour everything into the relationship, and we've only known the person 2 days, but it was so nice talking to them. It made us feel good that we put so much into it. It can sustain. I do know of someone whose parents met and they married a week later, and they stayed married for 50 plus years. But that tends to be the exception and not the norm. You know, if we're too hungry for a relationship and we jump in so quickly, it's difficult to sustain that, because we have not taken our time to get to know the person. We have not taken the time to experience that person in different situations and in different aspects of our lives. For some of us, if the goal was to improve our relationship with money, and we decide, but you get too hungry for that thing, then you may find yourself making decisions to make money that may compromise your health and well-being, that may compromise your morals. If money is your only goal, if you've gotten so hungry for it, your ethical base may start to get challenged. They say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Well, sometimes when we're so hungry for money, we're so hungry for success, that we make decisions that really do go against who we at core are. It really goes against our base value. We find ourselves saying yes, even when we know that everything inside of us is screaming no. So as you go through this time period of making or trying to do changes in your life, whatever you looked at, just a reminder, don't allow yourself to be too hungry for that change, too anxious, too eager for it, or too thirsty for it, but to do it one day at a time. And to do it, we're going to practice it. We're going to practice it. We're going to practice it until it becomes habitual, until it becomes a habit. If you just jump and get it, you haven't practiced. If you know from exercise, if you just go out and you walk 8 miles and you hadn't stretched, you hadn't done anything, it's your first time coming out, yeah, you reached your goal, but the next couple of days you're going to pay for it because your body wasn't ready for it. You hadn't gotten yourself, used to the pattern. You had not done it in a methodical way. And so when we talk about not getting too hungry, not getting too thirsty, we're really talking about being intentional about making this change a new part of our lives, to making this change something that we can sustain, and we want to do it on purpose. Love you all, and I will talk with you tomorrow.